Hello everybody and welcome back to the United Stand. Rashford returns to first team training. What is going to happen between him and Ruben Amorim? Is he going to be involved like he expects to be, or will he be training separately? As all of the members, the four of them, Antony, Sancho, Garnacho and Rashford, all set to return to first team training on Monday. Ruben Amorim's already there with his coaches at Carrington. It's going to begin, and we've only got one addition in Cunha and 0 outgoings. I'm going to run some polls, get some comments in with you guys. How do you feel about this? We thought this morning when I saw that Nico Williams was signing a 10-year deal with Athletic Club, I thought that's brilliant for Athletic Club, but it's also brilliant for Manchester United. Rashford can get his dream move to Barcelona. Nope, that's not happening as well. Fabrizio Romano has had a say who's next in line to join Barcelona after Nico Williams is renewed with Athletic Club, and it's not Barcelona. So even though Rashford's sitting there waiting for Barcelona, he's still not got that call that they want him to join. What is actually going to happen there, and is it a waiting game to just get a cheap loan towards the end of the window? Do they actually want him, or is it just agent talk? We will get into it. Also, we have been linked to a new keeper. Really interesting. Not a name that many of us would know, or if you do know, seen a lot of. But at this point, I think anything can be an upgrade on Andre Onana, considering how he performed last season. So it's definitely something we'll explore and talk about in the show. But happy Friday, everybody. Welcome to the show. How's your Friday going? Hope you've had a good week. Get your comments in. I'm starting you off with a poll straight away. Should Rashford and co? So, I mean, when you think about it, who are the ones that have had disagreements with Amorim are Rashford and Garnacho. Rashford had the issue when he was dropped for disciplinary reasons from the squad. And do you remember that period of time where every single press conference, every single question was about Rashford? So Rashford's had issues with Amorim in disciplinary issues. So was Garnacho. He had them at the same time when Rashford was dropped from the squad, but then he bounced back. And then he had them again in the Europa League final, and that was just breaking point. So their relationship's broken as well. Sancho, I don't think, has actually ever interacted with Ruben Amorim, but Man United are going to put the foot down on that one. They want him to go purely because his wage, more than anything, and just the situation, the tense situation with the United fans, the amount of chances he had, and how much he's kind of disrespected the club over the course of his Manchester United career. And then there is Antony, who I don't think ever had any sort of disagreements with Ruben Amorim. Ruben Amorim just didn't fancy him and saw an opportunity to move him on, and they parted ways. So I don't think you can put them all in the same bracket, but the ones that we know have had absolute issues with our manager, Ruben Amorim, who I'm very, very sure thought he was going to be walking back into pre-season training with a fresh start, Cunha and Bumo, a new striker, and perhaps even a new goalkeeper, with Rashford, away, Garnacho away, Sancho been sold, Antony potentially gone. I mean, he might not have expected every single one of them deals to be happening, but I can tell you now, he didn't expect to walk back in there to all four of them turning up and only having one new signing in Matheus Cunha. So he's going to be disappointed. Do the players that he has made clear don't have a future under him at this football club, do they train with the first team, or do they train separately while we find them a club, while we sort out their outgoing? Get your votes in the poll. Should Rashford and Garnacho train with the first team, or should they train separately? Because I was thinking about what we did last year with Jadon Sancho, and I have got a lot of news to bring on this, so bear with me. But what we did last year with Jadon Sancho, do you remember that? Jadon Sancho's back in first team training. Jadon Sancho's been reintegrated into first team training. There was pictures of him training with Rashford, smiling away. I think there was even pictures with him training with Ten Hag in the background, and people thought, hang on a second, Jadon Sancho's, back, and him and Ten Hag have made up. He even played in the Community Shield, didn't he? He came on off the bench. Actually, he missed a penalty in that game, didn't he? That's all I kind of remember from Sancho towards his later stages at Manchester United. But everyone thought that issue was resolved, and I remember the people that love Sancho FC, the likes of the Usmans, the Rickies. Ricky loves him. Ricky still thinks Ruben Amorim's going to see Sancho in training over the course of the next few weeks in the pre-season tour and decide to keep him. Let's see if that happens. Because Ricky texts me and says, Ruben Amorim's going to realise how good he is when he sees him training and wants to keep him. So everyone thought that, Jadon Sancho, he might have a chance at staying at United. He's back, he's reintegrated. And then he ended up leaving because Manchester United basically staged the whole, everything's fine between Sancho and Ten Hag. He's training, everything's happy, because they wanted to put out the image that they didn't need him to leave, therefore they could argue better terms in negotiations with suitors and clubs that wanted to come in for him. But Jadon Sancho was never ever going to stay at United last summer, despite being back in first team training and smiling away and being there. He was always going to go, and that will be the same thing this year with Rashford, with Garnacho, with Sancho, maybe Anthony. I think they all will depart in some capacity, whether it's loan or permanent. I think if they do train in first team training, it's purely just going to be for image. But I feel like saying, you can take pictures of Sancho and Rashford in training all you like, with Ruben Amorim there, acting like everything's business as usual, acting as if everything, is sunshines and rainbows. But we know that Amorim doesn't want Rashford back. We've known it since January, and we know there's no way on earth that Amorim wants to reintegrate Garnacho. He did it the first time round after he got dropped from the derby. He's not going to do it after his Europa League comments and wearing the Rashford Villa shirt. He's not. Honestly, I'd love to be a fly on the wall. I'm assuming it's going to be very, very awkward when they're reunited at Carrington. Reunited at Carrington anyway. But we've got some news coming in from Chris Wheeler, Fabrizio Romano on this topic, so I'll bring that in as well. Got your comments flying in already. Thank you, everyone, for them. Payne2 says, do you think Amorim will want to assess Sancho? Rick is in the building. He's here. Do I think Amorim will want to assess Sancho? I think if Jadon Sancho was on 100 grand a week, Ruben Amorim would absolutely want to assess him, because he's never had any contact with the player. He's not seen him train. He's not seen him play in person. He's not seen his demeanour, his attitude, his personnel. Like, every manager views different players differently. And just because Erik Ten Hag had an issue with Jadon Sancho does not mean that Ruben Amorim will. Erik Ten Hag and Garnacho, they might have had a few issues when he first broke in through the academy, but they had a brilliant relationship. They did. I think Erik Ten Hag, he used to play Garnacho every single game. You always saw them hugging and embracing each other. Whereas Garnacho and Amorim never really had that, and their relationship has obviously broken down. Each manager has different relationships with different players, and some managers really get on with players and like them, and some managers don't. So I don't think the fact that Erik Ten Hag had issues with Jadon Sancho means that Ruben Amorim's like, nope, don't even want to try it, because the previous manager here, who I have nothing to do with, has had issues with Jadon Sancho. And I know people can bring up, well, Amorim will know about his post on social media. Amorim will know about his freedom fighter comments. Amorim will know about, certain issues that kind of evolved in the fan base. But Ruben Amorim is a manager, he's a coach, and he wants to pick the best possible team that's going to help him win. He absolutely, I believe, would want to assess Jadon Sancho and give him a fresh, clean slate if he was on normal money. And by normal money, because what these footballers get paid is obviously massive amounts. But I mean, if he wasn't on a ridiculous wage like 300 grand a week, if he was on around 100, 150 grand a week, I guarantee you he'd want to assess him. Because there is a good footballer in there. There is. And he'd want to see what he can get from his personality. I mean, if he did assess him, I don't think it'd work, because I think Jadon Sancho's shown his true colours in the past, and I think he falls into the same bracket as other players that have an inflated ego and have shown have shown a mentality that isn't suited to Manchester United. So I don't think it would really end up being successful if he did want to see him and want to work him out and want to at least assess him. But like I'm saying, I think if his wage was decent, then he would. But I think Ineos, the Glazers, the board, they're all, united on this. We have seen the evolution of what's happened to players on massive wages at Manchester United since Ineos have come into this football club. They're going one by one. They can't wait for Casemiro's contract to end next year. They can't wait for it, because they are trying to bring these contracts down. They're trying to bring the wages down. And Manchester United, with the money troubles that we have, will absolutely want to get Jadon Sancho's wage off the books. He's on 300 grand a week. Like, they are not going to want to keep that there. Every player that is on a massive wage, bar Bruno Fernandes, the captain, and I think if anyone deserves his wage, it's him, have been looked at and been put under a magnifying glass and been scrutinised. I don't think that Ineos will want to keep Jadon Sancho around on 300 grand a week, and I think they will have made that message clear to Ruben Amorim. Now, if Ruben Amorim sees Jadon Sancho and says, look, this guy is like the second coming of Neymar, we've got to keep him. I don't care if he's on 300 grand a week, we've got to keep him. Maybe they'll have some sort of conversation about it, but I think this one's out of Ruben Amorim's hands. Even if he wanted to keep Sancho, which I don't think he would, I think it's out of his hands. I think they'd say, well, you know, we're going to put our foot down on this one. He's on too much money. We've had issues with him in the past, behavioural and discipline issues, so we're not going to go ahead with it. I mean, it's interesting about Sancho, isn't it? Because I've been in and around Carrington before and spoke to people around there, and obviously I'm not going to name names, but some people at Carrington really, really liked him. They didn't understand what the issue was between Ten Hag and Sancho, and they said he was great around the academy players. You know, he had a great attitude, he was super hard working. But then you have the other side of things where Ten Hag didn't see that, you know, issues with lateness. Benny McCarthy saying he was always going off to London whenever he had the opportunity to. So you don't need that. You just don't need the baggage. I've said it before and I'll say it again. You know what? You've opened a can of worms, Payne, too, with your Ricky comment there. I'll say it before and I'll say it again. Jadon Sancho, he's got talent, but I don't think he has the drive within him to get himself to the level where he should be. And at United, you don't want players that don't have that drive, that don't have that hunger. Jadon Sancho's always lacked that fire in his belly. And even at Chelsea and not taking that contract, whether it was, you know, a PR thing to not take the contract to save face and save humiliation, I don't know. But it just feels like his driver is money. And again, you don't want that at your club. So all in all, I don't think Jadon Sancho will be staying at Manchester United, to answer your question in a very long roundabout way. Seth Rollins says, Romano just tweeted Barcelona top target Diaz, not Rashford. Yes, that's what I want to bring into the show. So this morning, we thought that Marcus Rashford was destined to go to Barcelona because Nico Williams has put pen to paper and signed a 10-year contract with Athletic Club. So we thought Barcelona need a left winger. They need a versatile forward. Marcus Rashford's on the shortlist. Great. Two birds, one stone. United get a permanent move for Rashford. They don't have to mess about with a loan deal. Barcelona are going to come in. They have the money there for left winger. They're going to pay the money we want for Rashford. Rashford gets his dream move that he really wants. I mean, everybody knows Rashford wants to go to Barcelona. My grandma who lives in Turkey knows that Rashford wants to go to Barcelona. It just seems like it was going to fit. But then this comes out from Fabrizio Romano. So he said, I expect Barcelona to try for Luis Diaz again, and then also they have Marcus Rashford as part of the shortlist already since the January transfer window. And I've seen multiple reports now that Nico Williams was a target for Barcelona and Bayern. Bayern and Barcelona both have Rashford on the shortlist, i.e. we might be able to get him on a cheap loan. Manchester United are desperate to get rid of him. That could do is at the end of the window. But above him, they have other targets. And Barcelona's is Luis Diaz. And Bayern Munich's is also Luis Diaz. And I think Leao was mentioned as well in Bayern Munich's. The only saving grace for United in this is that Liverpool have made it clear to both clubs, Bayern Munich and Barcelona, I think they made it clear about a week ago, maybe a few days ago, that Luis Diaz is not for sale. They are prioritising footballing over financials, and they feel like they need a strong squad to compete for the Champions League and the Premier League, and they want to keep Luis Diaz as an important member of their squad. So Barca might try again. I don't think they're going to be able to come up with the financial package that Liverpool would accept to sell Luis Diaz. If Luis Diaz really pushes for it, Liverpool might offer Luis Diaz a better wage to keep him. I don't know. It might develop, but I don't think they're going to want to pay what Liverpool will want for Luis Diaz. And I think Liverpool will want at least 60 million, and I don't think they're going to pay it. Rashford's available for 40. They might end up going for Luis Diaz. That doesn't work out, and then it might go on to Marcus Rashford. But it honestly wouldn't surprise me if they go for Luis Diaz. they can't do it, and then suddenly there's another player on the shortlist that's ahead of Rashford as well, another left winger somewhere. So, yeah, I mean, Garnacho's right there. You'll all laugh at that one. But yeah, the Rashford to Barcelona thing, I thought it was going to open up. It still looks like the door is like slightly ajar now. It's not fully closed, slightly, but it's not completely open, and it's a little bit frustrating because I thought that was going to be our way in. I mean, just a little bit of more news on the Barcelona stuff is Rashford has informed the club that he's willing to take a pay cut in order to join. He's crazy about being a Barcelona player. So Rashford really does want to join Barca. It's just getting Barca to prioritise him, really. And it might not be the fact that, I mean, I see it this way. If Barcelona really wanted Marcus Rashford, surely they just go and pay the money. But they actually might really want Marcus Rashford, but they might be playing the long game and acting like they don't and being like, no, we actually prefer Luis Diaz. Oh, no, we've got all these other options as wingers. Because they know that they could get Rashford on a very cheap deal or a cheap loan at the end of the window. Whereas if they went for him now, it's going to be 40 million from United. So they're like, let's just like get other targets in or look at other people. And then when United are kind of, you know, a little bit worried and are on a deadline, they might compromise to a loan, which is going to benefit them more financially. So I think it's a big standoff between Barcelona and Manchester United, to be honest with you. But I still stand by the fact, if you truly want the player, you just paid the money that they're worth, I think, as well. But we'll see how it develops there. You have Kiel saying, you know what, I'm glad they're back. It puts things into a sad perspective. I agree. I think if I'm on the United board and I'm working in and around Carrington, if I'm Jason Wilcox, if I'm Omar Barada, and I'm working on these deals and I see Rashford, Garnacho, Sancho and Anthony all turn up and walk through the gates of Carrington for first team training, I think I'm failing at my job right now. I'm failing. And I kind of understand people's comments when they say, well, you know, it wasn't them that put them on these contracts and, you know, you can't sell something that nobody wants. But they can do a better job than what they're doing currently on the outgoings. I'm sorry. People will make excuses all day long. But when Manchester United finished 15th, worst ever Manchester United side, our manager even admitted it in a press conference, that it's the worst ever Manchester United side. And the manager is coming back into pre-season with one signing and 0 outgoings. You've got to look in the mirror and say, we needed to do better. You've got to. And I think Omar Brada, Jason Wilcox and the whole team will, when they evaluate the transfer window, will pick up on that. They absolutely will have to do an audit and realise that things weren't done in time and the process was too slow. And it was unacceptable to have the squad in that shape on the first day of pre-season. They will have to do that. But yeah, it's like Kiel says, it's a harsh reality. When you start seeing the pictures coming on Monday, it kind of shows how much we've got to do in a short period of time. And I don't want to be negative because I love this club. I think Cunha's going to be a great signing. I'm super excited for him, Boomer, when it does happen. But I have to say it how it is. Not having a striker in for pre-season when it was our priority position is a failure. Not having sold, don't get me wrong, I didn't expect Sancho, Anthony, Rashford and Garnacho all to have been sold for 50 million each and the start of pre-season and be like, get in there. But I expected at least 1 or 2 of them to be done. Or at least one and be in the process of doing a second. We're not close to closing a deal on any of them. Not even anywhere near close. Not even in club-to-club talks. Maybe the closest is Sancho with Juventus. But even Romano said that, you know, the wages are still proving to be an issue. So, yeah, it's frustrating. It is frustrating. We have Rob, Always United, said it's not fair on Amorim. Beth, what can he do? I mean, he's in a little bit of a sticky situation now because it's, do I integrate them into first team training and bend on my principles? But we've probably got a better chance of selling them. Or do I segregate them, put my foot down and say, you need to find a club, you're not part of this team, you're not part of this training, you can train separately until you found yourself a club. if he's really serious about not having them as part of his training, if he's really serious about not having them as part of his squad going forward, then you would argue that there's 0 point of him putting any effort into integrating them into training, because it just causes awkwardness. It causes, you're spending time and effort on players that aren't going to be part of the future, and it might give some of them an indication that they could end up staying and, staying on that wage and maybe, just kind of weighing it out to see better opportunities. Whereas if he's harsh on it and says, you aren't part of this team, you aren't part of my plans, train separately, it might give him a little bit of a nudge to be like, to call up their agent and say, look, I'm seriously in trouble if I've not left this club by the end of the transfer window. Let's start drumming up some interest and let's really start getting a move on the road. I don't want to be coming in here training on my own every day. Whereas if you're part of the squad, you get reintegrated and you're there and you're with everyone, you might think, you know what, I could live like this for another season or so. Whereas, if you are completely blunt with these players, then they might have a little bit more get up and go to kind of find a new club. It's on the club to work with the players as well, to be honest with you. I just remember what Conte did at Spurs, and Spurs again are quite a soft club, the same way United are, and I think when he came in, he was like, Reguilon, you're not part of it. He ended up he came to us on loan, didn't he? He came to us on loan. Reguilon, you're not going to be part of it. There was other players as well, and instantly he was like, you aren't training, you're not part of this project. Go and find a club. And next thing you know, Reguilon's on loan at United until January. So it can work. Dan O'Connell says, our negotiations are as useful as a handbrake on the Titanic. We are terrible. How can we say we have backed the manager with one new player? Yeah, I know. It's frustrating. It really is frustrating. I mean, is there a poll in the chat that I can look at right now? Because it's not coming up in my chat. Did we put a poll in there about first team? Or 82% of you, 82% of you are in agreement that they should train separately. I think you would see a lot more players, kind of get up and say, let's get out of here, let's find a new club if you did do that. The question is though, this should be another poll. Just comment now. Will United be strong enough to enforce that? Train separately. Will we be strong enough to do so? Because I saw this earlier this morning as well. And this is from BBC. And I've just got to say this. When players have career impacting injuries, it's really sad. And I wouldn't wish it upon anyone. And it must be so tiring and so frustrating. And it must be horrible mentally for the players. And I know a lot of people say, well, they're on massive money, they're going home and they're on huge money. There's still professional athletes that want to play football and mentally will be fatigued by having to deal with injuries. But I saw this coming from the BBC Sport this morning. Arsenal defender Tomiyasu will leave the club after a mutual termination of his contract. It's claimed he will be out for up to 5 months, leading to Arsenal and Tomiyasu reaching a contractual settlement to end his contract. So Tomiyasu, he suffered with knee problems ever since he joined Arsenal, I think in 2021-ish, if I'm correct. And he's now suffered another knee injury. He's going to be out for 5 months. Arsenal and him have mutually agreed to end the contract. Why have United not done this when we have players that aren't able to stay fit? And I don't like to say it because obviously it's not the player's fault, and I feel bad that players have to undergo, injuries that affects them playing football, which is their career and their livelihood. I get that. But United aren't a charity, Arsenal aren't a charity. You're a serious football club that doesn't have time to wait around and doesn't have time to waste on players that aren't going to be, part of the future. How long has Luke Shaw been at his football club for? And I've said it so many times. If Luke Shaw can stay fit, fantastic player. But he's just not fit and available for a period of time. He got injured after the Europa League final, I'm pretty sure. Whether he's going to be back in pre-season training, I don't know. But we've been on a merry-go-round with a couple of players that have had injuries like this. And it just kind of shows, doesn't it? Sorry, I'm just kind of trying to read this chat here. I I thought saw someone say something then that was like a juicy bit of information, but I read it wrong. Well, yeah, it just kind of shows that Arsenal are in a position where they want to compete and they're not going to wait around for a player that very, very sadly is suffered a lot of injuries. He's out for 5 months. Right, we'll terminate the contract. Let's come to some sort of agreement. How long has Luke Shaw not been able to stay fit? And yet we've never even considered trying to do that. We have a super chat in from Jay Law saying, shite players that can dictate their move is the toxicity that's been in this club for way too long. People up top, please punish the players. Is there a player union, by the way? Very strong opinion in there from J. Jaw Lloyd. You know, there's strong opinions all coming through the chat today. A lot of you are fed up with it and don't want to see it. And you expected these players to have moved on by now. And some people might call it harsh, but if you didn't want the fans to have a harsh reaction to it, you should have done something about it. You should have done something about it. And what message does that send to everybody? That we're starting a new season, a fresh start, we're backing Amorim, we're giving him his squad, we're getting rid of the players that aren't on board, that are causing problems, yet it's the same exact squad that finished 15th in the Premier League, plus Cunha. 0 outgoings. It's not good enough, it really isn't. On the Marcus Rashford stuff as well, this came out from Chris Wheeler. Sources close to Rashford say he has no issue to returning to the club and will give 100% in training. Well, it's his job to do that. He's paid over 300 grand a week to do it, so I'd expect so. Marcus Rashford is expecting to play a full part in Manchester United's pre-season programme when he reports to Carrington for training on Monday morning. There has been no contact between Amorim and Rashford after he was dropped over his alleged attitude in training. It's understood that there has so far been no direct communication between Manchester United and Rashford's camp over talks with other clubs. And that's the brief you're getting out from probably Rashford's side on that one. That he expects to play a full part in United's pre-season training. He's going to give 100%. I mean, what else do you want him to say? Obviously, you know, he's going to do that. That's what he's paid by the club to do. But again, for me, I don't want to come across too harsh here, but it just feels like it's like it's known that you can do whatever you want, you know, don't show the right attitude in training, go and do interviews without the manager knowing about leaving the club, you know, wait around all window for Barcelona, who only really want to pay a loan, which isn't going to benefit us in the slightest, but you can still train with everyone, you know, still in training, you know, nothing is going to impact you. And I feel like if players had a little bit more fear in them, that they would be, you know, they would face consequences like training on their own or, you know, not being part of the squad, then there might be a little bit more appetite to get a move on with leaving the club and going on with on a different pathway. That's the thing with United. I don't think we put our foot down enough. I really don't. I don't think we put our foot down enough with certain things. And I don't wish Rashford any ill will. I want him to have a successful career. I want him to get the Barcelona move. I want him to go and do really well. I think it's great for our academy. You know, he's a Manchester lad that's come through the academy. It's not worked out with Ruben Amorim. Go and show how good you are in a different league for a different club. I'm all for that. But if he's not part of Amorim's project, it's a waste of energy being part of his training. And it could go on all summer. But anyway, I'll leave that where it is for now. I'll leave that where it is. It's like even with, we had Ben Jacobs on the show yesterday, didn't we? And he said, you know, Alejandro Garnacho himself is the delay on his outgoing because he wants to wait until the end of the window to see if any suitors will come forward for him that might be a better fit. And again, you know, it's on his terms. I get it. As a player, you're going to want the best move. I'd be the same if I was a player. I want the best move for my career. But United just allow the player to win consistently, and we need to be more assertive and put our foot down a little bit more, but I don't think we really have any power to do so, to be honest with you. Super Arch says, training separate devalues a player. We often let personal beef get in the way of business. They need to talk, set boundaries, and without hope to the first team. See, I like that. That's a good super chat. It's got a different approach, less emotion to it. How do you feel about that? Comment down below. Sean says, just when we thought they couldn't do cost cutting, if we sell our tickets within 14 days. Wait, just when we thought they couldn't do cost cutting, if we sell our tickets within 14 days, we get charged £10 on our refund. How ridiculous is that? Sean, can we just explain that in the comments, please? Because I am also a season ticket holder, and that doesn't sound like something that a lot of fans are going to be happy with, including myself, if that is the case. I go to as many games as I can. I usually go to them all on my season ticket, to be honest. I'm very lucky that I'm in a privileged position to do so with my work and my lifestyle. But some people, you know, they have last minute changes. They have kids that they've got to look after. They have to work overtime at work. And to get charged on a refund wouldn't be great, but I don't know how true it is. So if there's any clarity on that, please do let me know. Anyway, a little bit of positivity, guys. A little bit of positivity that I'll bring into the show. So it's coming out that Manchester United have made an inquiry about John Viktor. Get in, transfer window saved. Transfer window saved, everyone. Do not sweat it. Don't worry. Don't worry about United. We might be going for John Viktor as our new keeper. He has a release clause of £5.8 million. After meetings, United should formalise an official proposal to the player. I've just seen someone in the chat say Asensio for 15 million. Yeah, I got sent that yesterday, actually. I got sent it that Fenerbahce have offered 50 million euros to PSG for Marco Asensio, another player who has another offer on the table from an unnamed club must now make a decision. That's coming from the Kip. So, but the fact that Marco Asensio might be, you know, available for 50 million euros, still probably wouldn't go for it if I was United, but very, very cheap for a decent player there. A decent player who did well for Aston Villa. I'm surprised Aston Villa haven't gone for it. Anyway, so on to the keeper anyway. It is the Botafogo goalkeeper. 5.8 million release clause. Let me tell you a bit about him. I have done a bit of research. Gonna be absolutely dead honest with you guys. I don't spend week in, week out watching Botafogo games. So I can't really give you my take on what he's like as a keeper, apart from the research online that I've done. So this isn't coming directly from me. Take it with a pinch of salt. But I get excited about any keeper we're linked to because we desperately need a new keeper. And I feel like most keepers out there would at least challenge Onana, to be honest with you. So a little bit of research on him. He's 29 years old, so obviously that's not old for a goalkeeper, but, you know, coming up to 30, he's got that experience. I think that's a good age for a goalkeeper. 6'5", so, you know, he's got that height to him that you would need and you would want, a very tall keeper, guy between the sticks there. And good shot stopper. Let me just go through here. It's not loading for me. I'm looking at the teams that he's played for in the past. So he's a good shot stopper. Apparently he is good at sweeping, coming off his line, and all in all, quite strong in most areas of keeping. But like I'm saying, I don't know much about this goalkeeper, and I haven't seen him play. Like, I've not. And I'm going to be completely honest with you on that. When we've linked to Botafogo goalkeeper a little bit before a show, I don't have much time to go out there and go and look at him. And I'll always be honest with you. If I know a player, I'll sit here and I'll say, I really like him. I love these attributes about him. I think, you know, he's going to be great for United. Or I'll say, do you know what? I don't actually think he's that great because I've watched him. I'm not a big fan. This guy, I don't know much about. All I know is that it's a keeper that, doing a little bit of research online, is apparently very good at shot stopping and good at coming off his line. Two things that concern me about Andre Onana. So let's see. Also cheap, so fits within our budget. Might just be a bit of agent talk. It might just be, you know, Botafogo kind of pushing it out there. They might want a sale But he's been linked to United. Let's see how it develops. I always get excited when we get linked to players that are in positions that we need to go and get as well. He's been playing, people are asking if he's playing in the World Cup. I'll go back and go through some of his games actually in a second. You have Alan Jamnik saying, is Patrick Schick available and is it good for United? A few years ago, I would have liked him. Now, I think we're too late on the train for Patrick Schick, to be honest with you. I remember, was it the Euros or the World Cup where he was absolutely excellent? But I think it's a little bit too late to go for him, but I would have done a while ago, to be honest with you. Simon Heron says, this goalkeeper is about as exciting as a wet sponge. How old is he? Says Gruff is 29 years old. So let's just see how it develops there. Let me just kind of have a look at his history here quickly while we're live. Oh, I do tell a lie. I might have seen him and not even realised when I was watching Palmeiras, to be fair. Because Palmeiras played them on Saturday the 28th of June, and I did tune in for some of that game against Botafogo. So, I mean, it's brief. It's very, very brief, so I can't comment because I weren't focused on him. So I might have actually watched a few minutes with him without actually even knowing. But yeah, he's been in the Club World Cup with Botafogo, so maybe we've seen a little bit of it. I didn't watch the PSG one, so I didn't see that one. Didn't watch the Seattle Sounders one. Although I'm sure I missed a cracker on that one. But he has been playing in the Club World Cup and he went out to Palmeiras in the round of 16. So if any of you guys have been watching Botafogo's games relentlessly in the Club World Cup and have been focusing on the keeper and can give us some insight, let us know down below. But I might have actually watched a bit of him without even knowing, to be honest with you. Ian Tracy says, John Victor has only played 105 senior club games at 29 years old. That's a worry for me unless we're getting him as a backup. I absolutely think if he does come into the club, it's going to be as a backup to Onana. I don't think he's going to replace him as a number one. I especially don't think he's going to replace him as a number one when you're bringing him in for 5.8 million. However, this is what I was talking about when I was saying we need to at least do something regarding the keepers. Bayindir isn't good enough. He's not good enough to challenge Onana. Therefore, you know he's not good enough. Onana doesn't look like he's going anywhere. So you bring in a second choice that isn't immediately going to take Onana's spot, but is competitive and can at least compete with him. So when he does get a chance, you know, when John Victor did get a chance, and he did well. A lot of you guys in the chat saying he's 10 times better than Onana. You might have seen him in the Club World Cup or watched him, you know, more than I have, and can say with confidence I have anyway. So maybe when he does get his opportunity, he can compete then with Onana and can maybe take that number one spot. You need that competition, but I don't think he'd be being brought in to actually replace Onana. He might end up replacing Onana by getting his spot off him if he has good games when he gets given his opportunity, which we know Amorim will give him opportunity. But I very highly doubt he would absolutely replace Onana. But that's the pathway we need to go down. If Onana is staying, we have to bring in a keeper that can at least compete. And at 29 years old, you know, he's not got a load of experience, even though his age would reflect that he would need, that he'd have that experience, which is a really good insight, by the way, in the chat, so thank you very much for getting that in. Number 69 says 109 games at 29 is crazy. Where has he been for 15 years? It is crazy. Let me just search that really quickly. Games played. It is not many, but you know what? If he's good, he's good. And if he can be that reliable number two for Onana as well as compete for him, I'm there for it, especially for the money that you'd be bringing him in for, because that is the money you would pay for a second choice keeper. John Victor has played for several clubs, including Botafogo, Santos, Internacional and Real Valladolid, with a total of 76 appearances for Botafogo, 28 for Santos, 14 for Internacional and 12 for Real. In 2025, he played 28 games for Botafogo. So you would expect way more appearances on that, but Anyway, that's the keeper that Manchester United are linked to. So comment down below in there. Little bit of a red flag, but if he's playing well in the Club World Cup, then it's something to think about. It's something to think about. Let's see. But look, everyone, that is the latest news. Get in the comments down below what you think about the Marcus Rashford, Garnacho, Anthony Sancho situation coming back into training. Do United need to put the foot down a little bit more? Would you take a gamble on a new keeper option? MUFC 2016 says, I really wanted Emi Martinez. Onana's going to ruin it all. Simon Heron says he was back up to the backup. Wendell Peterson says he kept a clean sheet against PSG. You know what? To do that against PSG is pretty good going, considering they are literally the best team in Europe right now. So something to think about, and something I'll definitely do a little bit more research on if we keep getting linked to him. And just also put it out there, guys, while you're all still here in the comments, I hope, and watching the show, I'm off on my holidays. I'm off on my holidays now, so I'm going to be away for a little while, not too long, but I'm off on my holidays. United look like they're on their holidays still, not doing any transfer business, so I thought I might as well get away on my holidays as the week builds up to the pre-season tour. You're going to be left in very, very good, capable hands. Of course, Goldbridge is going to be in the shows, and Maud might do a little bit more as well, and I'm sure there'll be loads of good content to be getting into. We've got the best here at the United Stand, and everyone pitches in their own little way. So yeah, it's my last show for a little while, which is weird because I do shows every day on the United Stand, and I'm going to miss you all. I am going to miss you all. I'm not even gone for long, but anything more than like a day is a long time in my world and in the footballing world, let's be honest. So I love you and leave you. And I just know what's going to happen, by the way. I know we're going to get an Mbumo here we go while I'm gone. Guarantee you. I guarantee you I'm going to be there sunbathing, and I'm going to get a notification, Mbumo here we go. And I'm just going to be like, it is absolutely typical that we've gone weeks and weeks and weeks, and then as soon as I go away, that's going to happen. To be honest, I hope for your sakes. I hope for your sakes, and I hope for United in general's sakes that we pick up the transfer business and we get on with stuff. And I hope I return to an Mbumo here we go, a striker signing, and all of our outgoings being sorted. But I don't think that's going to happen. If I return and we've still done nothing, cut the cameras. But look, thank you everyone for your nice comments there. Holiday here we go. I might still pitch in with a few little updates on socials or something. You'll have to wait and see. But thank you for watching, everyone. I really hope that you've had a good week. I hope you have a brilliant weekend. Also, sorry, I'm just kind of getting it all out there. I'm off to see Oasis tomorrow night in Cardiff. So if any of you are going to that, I might see you there. My fellow Welsh people. Jordan might be there. I actually need to contact him. I'm going to see an Oasis, so that'll be good. A good way to kick it off. Then towards the end of the weekend, off on my holidays, off to Greece, getting some sun. I need it. But thank you everyone for watching. Smash a like on the video if you've not already, and I will see you on the next one.